there's like, I think, less than 130 bacteria that can really kill the human organism. But there are thousands of species that benefit us. And we've only just begun to start unraveling a couple of them. So I think the research needs to go a little bit deeper. And I think when we start unraveling those guys, what is the potential for the human organism, which gets me to the energy subject. So yeah, in a nutshell, fecal transplants, all for it. I really think that one could make a huge difference. I'd love to work with autistic children and do fecal transplants there.
Yeah.
Because with the neuroscience work that I have been involved in, I can see, autism is so, it's so misunderstood. All it is a human organism that is tapping a whole different part of their brain. And generally genius mind, you've got autistic kids that just can't communicate with us because we are different. We don't see things at their level.
Yes.
If you take the story of Rain Man, and you take generally most of those kids, they'll walk into a parking lot, assess the whole situation and say, you could park 150 cars this way, or you could park 200 if you shift them slightly. Mm-hmm. And you and I don't think like that. We're more communicative, they are less, but that's because they're constantly in their mind. Now, if you took a biome from a non-autistic person, and we know that autism is sparked off because of leaky gut, generally a vaccine combination that triggers that whole process. But the beauty of that is we've now activated a different part of the brain. You never deactivate that. That's on. That neural network's alive and working. So now we have genius mind in one corner. If you take a biome from you or I, a normal person, let's call it a normal person with a reasonable amount of genius, but we're not thinking in that realm, but we are communicative, and you then plug that into an autistic biome, and you switch on the rest of the brain, do you then not have a genius who can communicate in layman terms? What kind of human being do you have? Do you have a super organism? And that's a big question I've been asking. If we can get certain parts of the brain to switch on, and we can switch on the rest just by biome alone, what do we have? And, well, nobody knows yet, I suppose, unless somebody's doing it. And then I think more needs to be done on the biome itself. But I think with the right team of neuroscientists and probably microbiologists, one could get a really very quick, clear result, I think. So fecal transplants, do they have a place? Absolutely. I mean, it probably grosses most people out. I think, though, the question in that is the consciousness question, because if we can shift a personality and we can create genius mind, what else are we transplanting? Are we not transplanting essence? And in that essence, you could definitely shift and change that human personality or consciousness, or even ego for that matter. So it could become a weapon, or it could become a really awesome spiritual tool. I mean, imagine just plugging in a whole community and suddenly we're all like-minded with our own individualism, and yet we function as one organism. And I think that's where, when we look at microcosm, we say all these bacteria got together, they started to find a way to communicate, they formed something. They formed a human organism. We're 90% bacteria, so there's not really much human being there. There's just it's a host of bacteria. If all the human beings got together and they started to function in one conformed network, then, the thought was that would take us to the next organism called humanity. We'd like to think of humanity, it's just a term that we throw out there, but what is humanity really? Is it not multiple bodies moving as one structure? And that's something we don't know. So when you kiss somebody, when you touch somebody, you leave the essence of you on them and in them. That starts to cultivate and colonize. And I love the English language. We look at the word colonize, and we look at the first few letters, colon. So doesn't that take us back into the colon, where these guys are hosted and harboring and living?
The root of the word.
Yeah, root of the word. So there you go. So anyway, I mean, I'm a bit of an IT professor, so there's a few thoughts there to ponder. And I don't know how you articulate that into something logical, but it's there.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.